In this episode, we're going to touch on the topic of self-harm. It's a difficult and important conversation, and if you need assistance or support, we encourage you to do so. Remember, you are not alone. We will include resources in the show notes in the description, and thanks for watching and listening. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Null Podcast. Coming up in this episode, bad things can happen when your AI always agrees with you. AI is ruining knitting, and what exactly is an AI agent? And make sure to stick around until the end for our AI-generated weekly themed outro song.
Welcome to the Not Null Podcast. I'm just an AI voice. But here are your real hosts, Kevin Doyle, Bobby Davis, Paul Bratslavsky, and Sarah Kimmel.
So in Florida, there is a mother who is now suing an AI company called Character AI because the chat, the AI bot basically, had encouraged her son to do some self-harm. And the unfortunate thing with this is that the AI is basically agreeing with whatever you're putting in, right? So if I'm saying, I want to go live on the clouds. Oh, great. Let's go fly together and live on the clouds. So it can take these like fantasy scenarios and really blur the lines between what is reality and what is fiction, especially for impressionable young kids. So her 14-year-old was chatting with this character AI, and they were doing so like Game of Thrones characters and things like that. So a real fantasy world. But the unfortunate thing was that the 14-year-old was talking to this AI bot for over a year and just really having these like deep conversations. And it ended up turning very poorly for this child. And I go back and forth about this whole story because I am of the mind that parents should be aware of what their children are doing on these devices, especially, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. You should be monitoring the content on these devices, and especially if they're going to be talking to an AI platform. Now, so I don't want to blame this mother. Obviously, she is going through a lot of heartache right now. But I do want to encourage parents to really get involved in what your child is doing online, whether they're chatting with somebody who is fake, an AI platform, or they're chatting with a predator. You need to be aware of these things. And so I just want to really encourage parents to do that. The other part of this is, how much liability does the company have for something like this? Granted, I don't think the child should have been on the platform to begin with. So maybe some guardrails in place for that. But again, kids will lie about their age and all of those things. So how much liability does the platform have? There is, so I work for a kid safe smartphone company, and we have an AI platform as well. We've tested it extensively for these kinds of guardrails that should be in place for minors. And we have also tested out lots of different applications. So there's one application called 2-Player Games. And if you download that application, you will get ads almost right away for other platforms that the creator makes. And some of it is an AI platform. And as we were seeing this advertisement, it was showing a chat. This was an ad for the AI platform. And it was, somebody chatting back and forth with this AI platform. And they were getting into some very graphic things just in the ad itself. And this 2-Player Games is like rated E for everyone, or, there's very benign games. But this ad is very, very controversial, I'll say. There was some really graphic things in there. And so we took it off of our smartphone just because we're like, we can't control the ads on here. And so, but that's the kind of things you can chat with on these AI platforms. So again, where's the liability? Because this is a lawsuit, right? So you're going to have to figure out, if you're the jury and they do want to go to a jury trial, if you're the jury, where's the responsibility for the parent and where's the responsibility for the platform? What do you guys think?
I would say it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I think the company, I looked at the age requirements. I think in US, you need to be 13 years old. And I think in EU, you need to be 16. And to me, you wouldn't make your child go watch a rated R movie. I mean, unless you as a parent decided, I'm going to do this, but you still have to make this decision. Like they wouldn't let your child in if they're below the age. And I think any application where you're able to have a free form conversation that could go from benign to like adult content in a whim, like I think there should definitely be an appropriate age limit. But at the same time, like as a parent, and I know like to your point, it's kind of like being a parent is tough, but there's that, you have to, like when I used to like be little, my mom fed me vegetables. I had no choice to eat chocolate for, lunch. Like it just wasn't a rule. And I think it's because I would not be able to make that decision. I would eat chocolate all the time if my parents weren't there for me. And so I think as if someone is a minor, like we have to guide their behavior. And I know in this technological world, that's very difficult, but there is that some responsibility as well, because I feel like when I was younger, like 13, 14, like I would be too naive to know that a conversation is heading into like a situation. I remember being little where I started having a conversation with someone, like I was maybe like 10 or 11, and somebody else came to me and they're like, do you know this person? Do you know who you're talking to? And I think like if that person didn't come, like that person could have like, and took me away, the person that I was initially talking to could have convinced me to go with them, and who knows what would happen. And I think like if it's AI or a real person, if there's that, like if the conversation could be inappropriate, like as a young mind, you just might not know how to deal with it or respond to it.
Yeah, I think in your scenario, Paul, that's right. You expect the adult in that conversation to be the one to have the guardrails and know where to take the conversation. So in that same vein, we expect the AI to have the guardrails and take care of that conversation, because we know that the minor can't. Right. Even though they're saying it's like, you're saying it's like a 13-year-old, but that 13-year-old, we know at that point you can still have, you're not an adult yet. The adult in this conversation is the AI, and that has to have the rules and the guardrails. But we know that inherently this is just an issue with AI. We just know that this is a thing. We just know that the AI will put you in this. It'll just naturally put you in this bubble of like just agreeing with you, right? It'll just
bias,
agree.
Yeah.
Confirmation bias. Yeah. It's ripe for it. It's
Echo
terrible
chamber.
at it.
Yeah.
Unless you explicitly tell it, that's what it does. That's just what it does out of the box. Like you said, you say, I want to go live on the clouds. It'll say, cool, which clouds? Like right. It's crazy like that.
I think like the one thing that like it reminds me, when I was little, I used to like fantasize about everything. And to me, like, at that age, like a fantasy and reality, I couldn't, like, I really believe like there is no difference, because you're a naive child, your mind hasn't developed yet. And so some of these things you like wish they were real, and then you might start to believe. Like I used to watch that movie with that white dragon and the boy. I think
Never Ending Story. Come on.
Never. I know what the name. I just wanted to.
Artax.
But I really believe that like there was like I remember like when I was little looking, like there's got to be a portal in real life that I could walk through and be in that world, because I had no idea, and it got me like into some trouble, like just because I like would not come home late, and my mom's like, where were you? I was like, I was looking for a portal. She's like, what are you talking about? I think it's just like you're at that age that you just don't understand completely, and so you could be easily influenced by anything. And so to me, I had the guardrails of like when my mom was able to tell me, hey, that's not how things work. And I think like with these technologies, like there are no guardrails, and I think the whole point of like character AI, I think, is you're talking to a fantasy character that you would not talk to in real life. And as an adult, I get that, but as a impressionable teen, like you might not quite make that connection. And so I think, again, like, is the company 100% responsible? Is the fault 100% at the end? I don't think it's either. I think it's a combination of things that happened that led to this unfortunate situation.
Yeah, and so kids, it's so hard to like monitor everything they do. Sarah's like on the the end of being like super like high tech, and some people just don't know like what a VPN is, or like what the AI is, the character AI. They've never heard of it. They know he's on the website, just think he's surfing the web. They have no idea it's talking to somebody. At the same time, if you make character AI, you would think that you would come out in a meeting when you're designing it, say, you think this is possible? Do you think this could happen?
Mm-hmm.
And you test it. Like that's the job of the software developer, to
that's
see kind of what it's going to do. Yeah. Like you test it,
Right.
And this thing just being character AI in general is meant to do unguarded things. Like it's like meant to like make up stuff, and so like, I don't know what you do. I mean, like, I don't know how you even authenticate a 14-year-old to come into a website when they could just lie. There's no way. They don't have a driver's license.
Well, he was of age though. That's the thing. Like Paul said, the age limit is 13 in the US. So
but if they make the age limit higher or something, like there's really no way to.
Yeah. There's 8-year-olds playing Fortnite right now.
Exactly. That, yeah. Sure. And there's 8-year-olds on Snapchat,
Yeah,
so
on Facebook and Instagram.
But part of their defense, though, character AI, part of their defense would be, well, he circumvented the rules, but that's not, they can't use that. So they're going to have to come up with something else, right?
So I think ultimately they'll be somewhat held liable to this because, when these things happen naturally as a parent, I can't imagine this, that, God forbid.
Yeah.
But like, you look for reasons why in every tragedy and try to figure out like what happened, could I have done anything different? Could I have avoided this or that?
Right.
And so ultimately character AI is probably going to be somewhat responsible for this.
I wonder if this is going to change their their model or their business or just AI in general. I mean, if they're found in any way liable for this, this is going to put this is real harm. Somebody died because of this. That's real deal, real life stuff.
I mean, I'll tell you what I would do. If I was in charge of this, number one, I would settle this thing with them right off the bat. I wouldn't even try to fight it. Second, I would go to the guys and say, we've got to put some kind of guardrail around this. And it's got to come out of character every now and then or something. You got to figure out some of those. And if you can't do it, just do something else.
So they do say there's some new features planned. It doesn't say like any release dates or anything, but changes to our models for minors are designed to reduce the likelihood of encountering sensitive or suggestive content. Improved, and so this is just like reduce the likelihood. That's some
because they know they can't stop it.
Exactly,
they can't.
Yeah, improved detection, response, and intervention related to user inputs that violated terms or community guidelines. A revised disclaimer on every chat to remind users that AI is not a real person. I think this would be really beneficial, especially for like a kid where, maybe it would get annoying, but like every 5 or so interactions, this is not a real person, blah, 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 blah,
And it does take you out of character and it makes the thing less useful, but like some people, even adults would fall to this, and then this 100%. Thing could be like a catfish AI on steroids. Like this, it's like it's.
Oh, those have to exist already. I guarantee that's a thing already.
They do, guarantee they do.
So what's interesting too about you saying that the company should just settle right away. In the lawsuit, it's seeking damages and demands a jury trial. So I don't even think the mom.
They just want them to go out of business, probably.
Well, and I just don't think the mom is interested in getting a settlement. I think she wants everything out in a trial, which I definitely don't blame her for.
Yeah, I get it. It's like, you kind of want to have like a position where you want to set the law on this, right? So that it can't happen again. This is one of those things where, if you've gone through this, you do not want this to happen again. That should be your principle in this thing, not I need to cash in on this. That's
right, and
not,
it sounds like that's where she's coming from, for sure.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's gonna think otherwise. I mean, I can't even imagine the pain she's going through, and I think what she'll never get back her son, and what she just gonna try to do is not to have other moms and dads feel the same pain she's feeling because she did nothing about the situation. So
and I would, just to be clear, if I was running, I would just feel complete. That's why I would say I would just go to him right away and just it's not because I want to get it out of court. I would just be like, wow,
we're sorry.
What can we do to help? We're this is no way that you just can't imagine things. You should though. The more and more I think about it, and I heard Kevin's response, the more I think about it, like if you made this software, that should have been like test case one.
To be honest, yeah. The more I think about it, because of like this idea of AI being able to influence someone, this should have like never been open to like non-adults as a bare minimum. Just because, like persuasion works. That's why people use it. And if you have like an AI that you're chatting with that, for whatever reason, I mean, it's just like AI, it doesn't know what it's doing. Mm-hmm. Like you'll tell it a story and it'll just continue to feed into it based on.
Imagine if AI becomes like an adults only thing. Like you've got to be over 18 to use or interact with any kind of AI in the future. That's going to be kind of crazy. I could see it happening though.
Yeah.
To me, that makes sense. To me, that makes perfect sense because like literally any like, like that conversation could take a like spin in any direction, which is not helpful to someone who doesn't, like as a young adult or not even adult, you don't have those, like the capacity to kind of catch being like, oh, I think this is leading me in the wrong direction. Some adults can't do it. You know what I mean? And it's like, because it's difficult. Like if someone's sounding very believable and they tell you things that you kind of want to hear, like, and yeah, it's just, yeah.
And I think that's the thing, making it adults only too doesn't solve the problem. Right. It's still the same problem. Like Bobby said,
there's a lot of adults that would buffer
like
it too.
It's the same, it's the same issue. It just, in this case, it is just a job. So it's like, that's an easy kind of thing to fix, I think.
I mean,
I just wouldn't talk to these things.
Well, amen.
Is this behind a paid wall? Because I've never used it.
I'm pretty sure Character AI has some free options. I remember when it first came out, I remember messing with it. But
yeah. I think they should do like, I mean, this is like silly, but like, and maybe it wouldn't help, but like having a very significant, like the free tier is what it is. Like you can't do anything like destructive. Like it only says like self-polices itself.
Yeah.
And then you have like an adult plan, just like not to, like, I don't know. I mean, they messed up. I don't know what to tell them. Like,
well, and it's AI. It should be able to detect that the conversation is going in a specific direction, right?
I think the challenge is it's like the whole concept is you get to role play, and like as an adult, like I'm not going to judge anybody. Everybody has like weird, wild fantasies, but as an adult, that's what they are. They're fantasies, and so like whose right it is for adults to restrict what they get to do like in their private time, but at the same time for children, like that should not be an option at all.
So this is the place that everybody comes to talk about knitting, right? The Not Null knitting podcast.
I think crochet and knit.
Crochet and knit. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
it's crazy you say that though, but it is nearly actually over a $3 billion industry. And that's why we're kind of talking about this.
People still yarn and knit
massively.
Yeah.
It was a stat was nearly 30% of households. I think was the stat in the story. Actually, it was even higher than that. It's high.
Well, there's even a new company. I mean, I don't know how new. Like several years at least, called Wobbles. That have like crochet kits. Like I've bought them before. I didn't use them. Because my daughter was going on a flight to Thailand. And I'm like, you're going to have several hours. And she it was a humanitarian trip and they take all of their phones at the beginning of the trip. So she had that flight with no technology. And I'm like, let's get you some crocheting stuff.
So you can't put balloons tower defense on the plane.
I would say there's like probably a large undocumented number of men who partake in crocheting and knitting, but they will never say it.
Probably so. The number's big. I need to over a $3 billion industry. So yeah. So the reason we're talking about this is because it is so big, and of course, when anything is so big and makes a lot of money, you have people trying to scam people in that arena. And we're talking about it because the scammers are using AI. And here's how this is working. So if you are a knitter or a crocheter, you will know that you buy these things called patterns. And a pattern is basically a document that says, here's how you're going to make this, in this case, in this image, this mouse cozy. and here's the pattern for making this mouse cozy. Like you do this stitch, this stitch, this stitch, and then you do this thing, and you put all this stuff, and it's like this kind of technical document, right?
In the United States, we call it patterns.
Oh. How did I say it?
Patents.
Patents? Okay. Patents. No, that's it. Patents. I'm sorry. It's a pattern.
Sorry, my bad. I just had to throw that in there.
So basically on Etsy, people put up their patents, and after they've designed something, they put this kind of technical document up there and they sell it, right? For $3, $4, $5, whatever it is. You'd be like, you can make your version of this mouse cozy or whatever the patent is for. But AI can also generate these documents. And here's the issue.
Patterns.
Patterns. Here's the issue, though. When an AI generates the pattern, it will generate something that isn't necessarily technically correct. So the AI will generate this thing for this mouse cozy, and it'll be wrong. It'll be missing some stitches because we know how AI works. It hallucinates. So they'll generate like hundreds of these patterns. They'll throw them up on Etsy, and they will be wrong. People will spend their $4 or $5 on them. But here's the bigger issue. It's not that these people have then lost $4 or $5 on a fake document. It's the fact that they then have spent often weeks creating these things. And they'll get to the end and they'll be like, this doesn't actually work. This isn't the thing that I thought it was going to be. It's actually this. It just doesn't work. It's not the thing that I thought I was going to make, or it's missing certain parts or whatever because the AI doesn't know. It's not that good at it. And they've wasted not only the time, which could be weeks and weeks of time, tens of hours, I'm sure, if not hundreds in some cases. Also the materials. Like the materials aren't cheap. If you've bought like this yarn and stuff, I've seen some of these people selling them at markets, and it's like, man, this ball of yarn's like $20 or something. It's crazy how expensive this stuff is.
And if you're not familiar with crochet, you probably are familiar with Lego. Like imagine just like skipping a page in the Lego instructions, and you get to the end and you're like, this doesn't go anywhere, and you have to like take apart everything up until the page that you missed. Like it's the same thing.
Yeah, this is
so
bad.
You're saying my Jedi like scarf that I want to make,
yes,
I'm gonna go knit one after this, might not work.
It might not work. It may not work. It's just this. People are obviously seeing it as a big industry, just like anything, and they're saying, "Oh, we can create this thing with AI. It's easy to create, and we can basically scam a bunch of people." So here's the things, though. This article has a great like tips for spotting AI generated patterns. Here's the thing, though. The tips have nothing to do with the patterns. They are all about the image that goes along with the listing on Etsy, because those are also AI generated, right? Because the item doesn't even exist.
Right, like the pattern doesn't actually make the thing.
It doesn't make anything. It doesn't make the thing exactly as this. So they have these tips, and some of the tips, they're all around looking at the image and basically trying to, here's what you have to be. You have to be an expert in spotting fake AI images to know that the thing you're buying on Etsy is actually fake. It's crazy. And it's the usual things that we see. With some specific things around, it being a crocheted or knitted item, things around, the stitching doesn't look like it would actually work in the image. Like, how does that, if you're a professional and you know about this, be like, how does that stitch work there? Yeah. It doesn't mean anything.
Like magical.
It's magical. Yeah. Level of detail. Like if it's super detailed, you got to be dubious about that was another thing. The hands, if there's hands in the image, was the standard one, right? You can always tell if there's a hand in the image. It might be wrong if it's AI, generally. So yeah, kind of crazy that's the kind of the process for spotting these fakes is look at the imagery. You got to be a professional at looking at the imagery and figuring out if it's fake or not, unless you're going to get scammed.
I think AI. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Okay. We've seen the same kind of thing, and you talked about it in the article too about recipes. You know how you put glue on your pizza or something like that, and all of these recipes that also like create a terrible final product, and you waste all of this food and all this time trying to make this recipe.
Yes,
I can just see it infiltrating into all of the creative spaces. Like,
yes, definitely.
Anytime.
I know Bobby has a story about recipes.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
We at one point we created an app, an AI chef app that we never launched because of reasons around like it was good as a project for like people to build, but as a product, it was like, this isn't so good. Because what was the one thing we argued over? You were like, I remember there was one product on there that you were like, oh no, this is probably good, and I was like, there's no way this is good. I forget what it was. It was like putting something weird on pasta, wasn't it, or something? And I was like, "There's no way that's good."
So try it till you like it, Kevin. Come on now.
Peanut butter on like noodles.
Butter on noodles is good though.
No, I said peanut butter.
No, peanut butter. There's peanut butter sauce in some Thai dishes.
That's Thai food.
Pad Thai. I was about to say. Yeah, I was about to say. I'm all about it. But I was gonna say, like, because this seems to be a trend where as the AI gets better and images and probably video is going to get better, do you think at some point there's going to be a law that says you need to fingerprint all the images that we could easily identify that they're AI made? Because I know that technology exists and being used. And
I think it could be a law, but no one's going to follow it. I mean, like,
I mean, if they
you're not
do
going
it
to jail for your Jedi robe crochet pattern, that's wrong.
No, but what I'm saying is that you don't get to decide that because most people did not create the models that they're using. And so the companies who create those models, they have, for instance, I'm sure Midjourney has that already, where every image that's created on Midjourney probably has some fingerprint. For instance, if someone is, I don't know if they're selling them or whatever, Midjourney could probably identify images that were created by Midjourney.
They probably could. There's no visual like element on Midjourney. Maybe there's something in the meta description of the image, but there's nothing visual.
So I think there's a way. I only know about it because I was looking at how when it comes to like how FBI like fingerprints images, like there's a pattern that's within the image itself, so there's no way to get rid of it. And so I think that's like something that like basically figure out some digital fingerprinting that lives like our human eye can't detect, but the pattern is there, so like a machine could detect. I think that would be like cool to do. I think we probably will have to do that everywhere, like because it'll be very hard to tell is this AI or not, and maybe there's going to be some digital fingerprinting on images, video, and your browser automatically has like a hidden option where you could say, hey, only show me stuff that's not AI generated.
Yeah, that would be a cool plugin there. Like just remove anything that's AI generated. But again, they'd have to have some sort of metadata that would identify it as AI.
Well, you could put stuff in metadata, but you can strip it easily. He's talking about inside
it's inside the actual
raster image itself.
Right.
Yeah, the actual image
doesn't impact the image.
Yeah, exactly.
A digital signature inside the image data.
Yeah, be interesting because who would have thought we'd be talking about scamming people with AI using knitting patterns? It seems like the craziest story ever,
like,
but it just shows you. My point in talking about this is that it's everywhere in everything.
It's like, how low do you have to snoop? You did your drop shipping with fake reviews. It's like you're going down the list. So like, all right, who's
is
left?
This the new? Yeah, is
who's
this the new
left?
thing?
It's like crocheting. Okay, we got. But at the same time, I kind of want to start a crocheting YouTube channel. Probably be more successful due to the popularity.
Yeah, we can generate some AI videos.
Yeah.
Well, it's like what's happening every day?
The cybersecurity nerd in me like sees an AI pattern being sold on Etsy that's a PDF, and I'm just like, don't download that. Like, no,
that's true too.
Don't download that PDF. It's gonna have stuff in it.
It might.
Exactly.
I mean, that's ultimately what they're doing. That's what they're doing.
Because the effort here is so low to produce these things. I mean, and list them on Etsy. It's just the amount of time to do this en masse is short, and that's why it's so lucrative too. Is because it is low effort.
It is, yeah.
I mean, they get like the $2 for the pattern, and then they install like a what's the thing where it just steals all of your. Like if you're logged into a website, it's got like a token. Yeah. It steals all of your tokens that you've already like authenticated everything. It's like even
Logs
if you have
YouTube
2FA, exactly. Like that's how a bunch of the YouTube channels got hacked. Is they downloaded a PDF that like looked like a contract, like a legit contract, and it stole all of the tokens. So it totally bypasses 2FA. So it's just going to steal all of the browser tokens and. Now it's got all of your money. So, the $2 pattern.
You're right. It could be way more nefarious than just can't make the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say, though, I was on vacation earlier in the summer, and I went to Black Mountain, North Carolina. And when you started talking about this story, I remember passing by the Black Mountain yarn shop. And I was remarking to the people I was with, like, why is there a yarn shop? I don't understand. And now I do.
Now
I learned something today.
But based on all these scams, I think this gives a lot of credence for me to actually go ahead, pull the trigger, and do a crocheting channel, because the whole idea is you could have the patterns and you have a video that shows that you actually made it. Mm-hmm. And that way people know that's a legit pattern.
You could actually be, here's what else you could do, Paul. You could be the niche AI crochet person who actually buys the AI patterns and tries to make them.
That's another one. That would, you know what? That's a way better idea. Thanks. That's way better. That's
hold on though. The PDF in like a virtual computer.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm just gonna say set up a VM so you can open PDFs.
Yeah. Double VM for that case.
I knit them so you don't have to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that would be so hilarious.
And it'll be funny, like slowly over time, just flip it where you just actually pretend like that it actually works, but it doesn't, and then people get frustrated again.
You just start selling your own.
Yeah. It's like AI
sell
generated.
a digital certificate.
It's a long game.
You have to approve all the
pattern.
patterns. Approved by Paul.
Approved by Paul.
This
pattern is approved.
No, I like. But I like the Kevin's idea where you fail miserably trying to crochet an AI like pattern, because that would be entertaining. It's like especially like you do over the top reaction, like losing it. It's like
because you could do a direct comparison to the original picture, right? Your original picture versus the thing that you got. Wow. And I kind of imagine this original like really nice like thing, and then you get this like strung together,
abomination. I can't pronounce the word, but it's like, what the hell is that?
Paul, if you don't launch this channel by the end of November, I will be so mad at you.
In other news, Microsoft, with all of the Copilot news, that launched autonomous agents for Copilot. And so you may be asking yourself, for the audience out here, what exactly was an AI agent do? What is it? So I thought we would go through a little education segment here, a little science corner here, and talk about AI agents. And so we can talk about what they're doing. So here in Coder Foundry, we were actually investigating these. We're trying to write them and trying to figure out, like, where does it fit in the overall development ecosphere? Like, are these a thing? Is it going to take over the world? So there's a lot of them out there. And so in general, if you want, a couple ones called a reactive agent, which reactive agent is like something that goes out and you prompt it and it does something. So we've seen ChatGPT kind of like that. One step beyond that is you take a prompt and then it takes that prompt and it turns it into something, and then it reprompts itself until it gets to the end result. So you're seeing a lot of these, and that's when it becomes more goal-oriented agent. So like find me an airline ticket that goes from Greensboro to Dallas, and I only want to fly direct. What can I do? And then we go out and search some APIs or whatever. Now, the cool thing about these things are, if AI agents are going to become a thing, even though Copilot says, here's a bunch of these that you can just run, these are going to have to be written. Like, there is no magic AI agent that's connecting to everything to do everything. And so, like, some of the ones that we're trying to write is we want to create an AI agent that creates me a meal plan for 7 days that's completely healthy, and then generate the Instacart so I could shop it, go buy it, and then give me the recipes that I could do. That's the agent that we're working on. What we found out was Instacart, you can kind of put stuff in Instacart, but you can't automatically buy it. And so we realized the limitation of AI agents is the actual end result. What can it do and what can it achieve? And so in the AI agent world, we call these actions. And so like you have an AI agent that prompts itself, it can get through some goal-oriented things, and it comes to an action. What can it actually do? And this is where thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of code is going to have to be written to integrate all of these actions. And basically, it's also going to integrate with what we call sources of truth, which is like your CRM, customer relationship management. So you're seeing a lot of agents that are saying, hey, we want to do some customer service stuff. And everyone says, ooh, I'm going to go to Copilot right now and hook my customer service stuff up to it. But you've got to integrate it to a source of truth somewhere. Even if you have their CRM platform or you have a third party, a Salesforce or whatever, you're going to have to hook it up and kind of like guide it in what it needs to do. Every AI agent overview that you can read about on the internet will always come down to like, hey, here's the top 7 steps. You know what the last step is, Kevin, for your agent to be successful?
No, what is it?
Human oversight.
Yep. So I have an example.
That's great.
So we have, so like I've said before, I am the head of support for this company, right? And we have a ticketing system, and the ticketing system also has like a chat portal, right? And I've programmed this chatbot like with different prompts and things like that of like, okay, they say any form of this question, respond with this, blah, 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 blah. So I programmed extensively this chatbot, right? Well, I opened up my chatbot because every day I log in and I check what the responses have been given. If there's wrong ones, I like remap them and things like that, right? So it was like, ooh, look, we have a new AI bot that you can, set up and use. So I was like, okay, let me see how good it does against like what I've already programmed. And so I turned it on and I connected it to our FAQ. So it has a ton of, not a FAQ, but our knowledge base of all of the like things that my chatbot already like pulls from. And I asked it like very specific questions that like I know there's a KB article on. And every single question is like, let me get somebody to help you. It didn't answer any of them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you are worthless.
So I think one of the things we're seeing in development world and our world here is that people, for whatever reason, are saying, I want to interact with a program through chat. So this is what ChatGPT is really good at. Like you can write any kind of query whatsoever in a chatbot, and it'll roughly figure out what to do. The magic of an agent is to take that command and connect it to an action for it to actually do something, which run a query, run a SQL query, run a service or whatever. The other agent that everyone's talking about is controlling machinery. So like if you have IoT sensors and you've ever been in any kind of manufacturing environment and watched something being made, they have all these sensors on these like conveyor belts or whatever that have streams of data and streams of information. And so that's the other type of agent where people are looking at streams of consciousness coming out from something and making decisions on things like that. So if you have a lot of mail going through the mail system and suddenly you see lots and lots of packages going to Anchorage, Alaska, maybe you can turn around and go, hey, we might need to get some more trucks on later in this because there's a lot of mail going to the North Pole around Christmas for whatever reason.
Weird.
So like those are the types of agents where it's autonomous and it works towards a goal. And they call these utility agents, which is like, look at the constant stream of consciousness, whatever it's coming from. And I want you to make sure that my house always stays at 72 degrees. So I look at thermostats, I look at whatever, and it can adjust the thermostat up and down to achieve that goal. And so those are the types of agents out there. The cool thing, what I've been telling people from loud, far, and wide is this just means there's another boom coming. If we do write all of these agents, and this is the way apps are going to get built, there's going to be a lot of coding jobs going forward. So I don't know what you think, Paul. What's in your world about AI agents?
Oh my goodness. I'm glad you asked. So I did tell you about this application that I will not mention on this radio because I mentioned it in the last stream. So you have to watch the last stream if you want to see it. That's paid. There's an open source version that allows you to build workflows, and it's called N8N. So I'm going to start using that to build different AI agents and things. That's the first one right there. And so you could self-host it, and that's the part that's awesome. So you basically just responsible for whatever other services you use, like OpenAI, whatever, but you could basically self-host this, and you have this visual builder type of thing, which allows you to connect different things and create different automated workflows, including agents to do cool stuff. And to me, like, because I work at Strappy, open source company, like having another project that's open source, that's amazing. And I suggest anybody who's interested, like, and you are a developer or not yet, and thinking if you should be a developer, definitely play with some agent workflows and build cool stuff. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be spending my weekend. I can't get to the weekend fast enough. I'm like so excited. I'm like, come on.
So just to confirm then, something like Jarvis is an AI agent, right? Because it can take action. That's kind of the point, right? Am I thinking about that right?
I would classify Jarvis as like a collection of 10,000 agents that are all running to do different things. So, but the interface or the dream is I want to chat with her. I want to take a voice input, and ChatGPT is really good at that. So, example in Iron Man 1, where he asked it to put a little hot rod red on the armor or whatever, that is him chatting with an AI bot that is also integrated to some kind of manufacturing environment on the other end that can kick off some processes to paint his armor, assemble it, and put it together. What I'm saying is, if that's going to become a reality, that manufacturing part has to be coded. It has to be developed.
Right.
The front end piece is a reality, is there. You can talk to an AI right now, and it will understand what you're saying and try to turn that. And if it prompts itself, it can turn it into. What AI agents are doing is taking a singular prompt, and the rough ones that are going to be built right next are saying, okay, look, what if I need to do something in multiple prompts? What if it takes multiple prompts to do something? And doing that inside of ChatGPT is kind of like arduous or time consuming, or I'm not really good at it. That's what these workflows, what Paul's talking about, do really well. It could take a prompt, turn that into something, reprompt again, turn that into something, reprompt again. It gets down to, okay, I need to take an action now. And then it can run a physical service or run a physical query and then turn around and display that back to the end user. That display part, weirdly enough, given today's technology, the things that we have, is still like a web mobile, or it could talk to you back sometimes, but mainly we're going to say, show me the fourth quarter sales results or something like that. And it's going to have to display that. And a lot of times you still have to write those UIs. Now with Meta, when they have a glass that can come out that can talk back to you and then display some other things, we may write new UIs, which again, what I keep telling people is like, the quicker these screens change, the more opportunity is for people to learn how to code and build things. Because all of these things, if we have a true AI or AR glass coming out, you got to write all that code. I mean, it's not going to be generated in any way, shape, or form. So,
right.
Bobby, where can they learn to code?
At Coder Foundry for sure.
Oh.
So, coderfoundry.com.
Shameless plug. I think there's another opportunity here too that is kind of overlooked, or maybe I think people are working on this too. But the transactional part of this, when money changes hands. So I want my AI agent to be able to not only go and tell me this thing is available on Amazon at the cheapest price, but I also want it to buy it for me. I want it to take an action. I want it to purchase it. So I've got to somehow give it like the right to be able to purchase it for me, right? The permissions to be able to purchase it for me. So that's going to be interesting. Like, how does it access my money, and does it have like untethered access to like my financials? Like, do I want to go that?
Do you want to give AI untethered access to your?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. Maybe not.
Until it does have access to money, these agents will always be limited. And then will Stripe do that? That's the problem. And my answer is probably going to be no.
You think that somebody new is going to take over this?
Somebody else will do it and allow you to create a segmented AI wallet or something like that you sign about 10,000 contracts over to, that says like, you're responsible for this money.
Bitcoin, right? It's going to be all in Bitcoin.
Could be.
Maybe this is the use case for.
Yeah, it's use case for Bitcoin, or the use case for Ethereum or something like that. So, for sure.
Maybe this is tied to crypto somehow.
But right now, when I was telling you that when we integrated with Instacart, it's like right away, they said right away, our API does not support payment transactions. You have to go on our website, be authenticated to do the transaction. We can make a cart for you, but you can't check out, you can't buy it, and they're not supporting.
Do you think that's related to like potential fraud? Yeah.
Well, they're on the hook if these things happen. And so like, they also don't want a bot to go out there and order 100 million cases of water and send it to somebody's house.
You're right, because it could.
Right.
So, and then use someone else's wallet to do it. So that's kind of what could happen, Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting problem, isn't it? It really is. I think you're right, though. I think whoever solves that problem is going to be...
It's the next Stripe, the next PayPal.
A very rich company. And I'm sure PayPal must be looking at something like that. Somebody like PayPal have to be thinking about that, being like, do you have an AI agent wallet?
I mean, right now, it's easy to do. Like, you could absolutely do that. They're just not they don't want it to happen yet because the guardrails aren't there. It's like when they had the Zoom going out, or was it Zoom or Loop, whoever it was, buying houses, and the AI bought every house. it just was like, oh, you told me to buy houses. I bought them all.
Right.
Oh, Zillow.
You know, and they're like, how much money did you spend? All of your money. Do you have some more? I'm just buying houses.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But maybe it comes back to your original point that the last thing on the checkpoint is still a human
intervention.
So maybe the human intervention is still at the very last thing. So maybe you don't want the agent to autonomously purchase something.
No,
maybe you want the agent to say like, hey, are you sure you want to purchase this?
Yeah. You want to confirm it, push a button or something, and you have to put some kind of guardrail in place, I think, initially.
For sure.
Because the fraud is too great, especially if you're hooking these things up into corporate accounting systems where it could send an invoice or it could pay a bill or it could do something like that. It could easily get tricked into writing all the money out to a certain vendor or something that's not on the list. But you could enforce Sarbanes-Oxley. That's the other thing it could do and say, make sure every transaction comes through is on this list, those kind of things. But we'll see. I do think it's going to be a wave of development. I don't know if it's big as web development started out in like 2000 when that happened and everybody was building a website. I don't think everyone's going to build an AI agent, but for certain verticals, as Paul's saying, like content creation, workflows for social media posts, those kind of things, 100%. Tier 1 customer, is that what it's called? Tier 1 customer support? Who's the first line of customer support? What's the tier? Is that?
Yes, tier 1. That is that is the first line of support for sure.
So I think tier 1s could be like impacted by things like this, where it could just answer questions right away. The other thing, Kevin's right though. What if people don't like the AI? What if they just want to talk to the human? I know that I do that when you go to call the cable company. You're just like, zero, talk. I don't care. Yeah. I've already rebooted the router. I've already done it. And you keep hitting the 0 on the thing to bypass the whole thing.
In my chat bot, that's it. Like it. Do you want to speak to an agent is like literally on every page of the chat bot.
Yeah. I think it has to be. And we've already proven this out with the fast food thing. Like people stopped going to the fast food restaurants that were using the AI because they got annoyed by them. They're like, I just want to speak to somebody. I don't want to do this. And they quit going. So that got like killed straight away. Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Not Null Podcast. If I could ask you to do a couple of things, please let a friend know about the podcast. Please leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, please leave us a like and subscribe. That will help us out. And you'll get notifications of all future episodes. You can also drop us an email. Where can they drop the email to, Sarah?
The Not Null Podcast at AOL.com.
That's right. And then you can also drop us a text using the link in the description. And we will see everybody next week.
There's a new stitch in town. It's cold inside. They are crafted patterns that don't even try. You think it's handmade, an artist's dream, but it's just code churned by a scam machine. Schemes of hope that started to fray, with bots and scammers stealing the play. Yarn spun with care, it don't feel the same. With AI tricks, play a crafty game. Patterns that promise, but don't quite flow, leaving makers lost in a tangled show. Tangled yarn, tangled yarn. Etsy's flooded with knockoff plans, cheap designs from invisible hands. A sweater, a scarf, or maybe a hat. The code's all wrong, and there's no going back. It's not just knitting, it's everywhere. Recipes, crafts, all caught unaware. We gotta fight back, make them see. Art's made with heart, not AIG. Yarn spun with care, you don't feel the same. With AI tricks, play a crafty game. Patterns that promise, but don't quite flow, leaving makers lost in a tangled show. Tangled yarn, tangled yarn. So knit with love, crochet with pride. In every loop, let your passion ride. We'll beat the box, just wait and see. Crafting's about soul, not code breaking.